excited to have you here at Bill's.
Thank
you
you.
for coming by today. A big fan, and I saw you guys back in 1998, so that dates all of us, right? And I'm really enjoying the new album, so congrats on that. It's been 4 years since you put out a new album.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long time. It's the first record since our 20th anniversary.
Yeah, how does it feel?
Good.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
It's round two.
It's round two. So this album you started recording on Election Day and in Austin, Texas. What did that mean to you to start recording on that day, really?
Well, yeah, I think just like everybody else, we thought the election was going to go a different way. Even both sides of the campaign and both sides of the election thought it was going to go a different way. So we spent the whole day kind of setting up and placing microphones and moving equipment and getting sounds. And every now and then we'd look at the news and scratch our heads and go, really? That seems a little funny. But we were in Texas where we're very comfortable recording, and we just kind of dove right into the music. You know, I think maybe it affected the mood a little bit, but overall, we were just there to immerse ourselves in the recording process.
We were anticipating it a little bit, you know, if it swung that way, you know, how our moods would be starting the sessions, you know.
Yeah. So, and there are specific songs on the album that really speak to that. Can you talk a little bit about that? Even the first single speaks to the election and what's going on in the world.
Well, there are a few political statements on the record, but there always are. Every Gov't Mule record has political statements going all the way back to the first one. Stone Cold Rage is kind of just an observation of what's going on in the way that whichever way the election went, there were a lot of people that were going to be pissed off, and it just kind of speaks about where we are right now with the divide. But I think the biggest takeaway from our new record is that it's up to people to work together to solve this situation. We can't depend on the government to solve it. And the only way we can do it is by working together.
Right. So there is a sense of unity of sorts that you're kind of speaking to on the album.
There kind of has to be,
Yeah.
you know, because music brings people together, right? People in our audience are on all walks of life and on both sides of the political spectrum, and everybody has a genuine axe to grind. So instead of getting lost in all the political system as it is right now, they have to actually work together and make things better for folks.
Even the album title, Revolution Come, Revolution Go, where does that come from? I know it comes from the songs, but can you speak to what that means and how that kind of brings everything together?
Well, if you look at the artwork, it's about people that aren't working together. It's about going in a circle and winding up right where you were, and no progress being made. It came from the song Revolution Come, Revolution Go, and it's mostly about the fact that we keep having these major changes, and then the next administration comes in and negates them, and then the next administration comes in and negates that, and all we're really doing is undermining what's being done. We're not really moving forward.
Did you want to add something?
Well, we tried to choose the title from some of the songs, and it all came back to Revolution Come, Revolution Go is a no-brainer, pretty much. So.
Absolutely. So sound-wise, this is a pretty diverse record. Can you talk a little bit about what you wanted to do with the sound on this album?
We talked about trying to make this record sound kind of like the first record. Get back to that.
We kept saying we wanted to go back to the beginning and move into directions we'd never gone before at the same time. And whenever somebody would ask us that, what do you mean by that? We go, well, we're not going to know until it happens.
When you're putting together an album like this, how much of it are you improvising in the studio versus how much are you planning ahead, that kind of thing?
We don't do a whole lot of rehearsal before
Yeah.
we record the songs, which is kind of unique. So we have to come up with what we think are the right parts at the right time real quick.
Right, right.
And because we've never really played these songs before we record them. So, and we're just getting around to playing these songs now.
Yeah, and how's it going so far? Because I know you're playing a big show here in New York City this
Yeah,
week.
it's going good. We're
Yeah.
excited about the new stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. At this point in your career, you have so much music, and I know you change up your set list quite a bit. How do you decide, okay, tonight we're going to throw this song in, tonight we're not going to play this? How does that all come together for you?
There's a few ways that happens. One is we keep a log of every show. So we'll look back and see what we played the last time in New York and the time before that and make sure that this show is completely different. When we're in the middle of a tour, we'll also base it on what we played last night, what we played the night before. And also the town, the city influences it. If it's a rock and roll town, we'll do more of a rock and roll set. If it's more of a listening town, we'll do a little more experimental set. And then at sound check, we kind of get a feel for the venue, and if it seems like we should make some changes, we do.
Yeah, and you have a big tour set up this year, right? What's it like being on the road circa 2017 versus mid-90s, 90, 94, 95?
It's the travel. The
Yeah.
travel's a lot different.
Yeah.
You know, but we're doing about 2 weeks here on the East Coast and all the way to St. Louis, I think. And then we go to Europe for 2 weeks. So, and then we have a big tour in August in North America, and we go back to Europe.
When you first, on the break from the Allmans, Warren, you decided to put together the band. When you look back now, you said you celebrated your 20-year anniversary a few years back. Would you have ever imagined where you would be playing in this band 20-somewhat years later?
No, because Gov't Mule started as a side project. We were really only looking to make one record, do a short little tour, and then get back to our lives. It didn't really work out that way.
24 years later.
So much for that, right?
Yeah, but things that happen organically are usually the best, and I think we discovered pretty early on that this was more important than we realized, and the chemistry was very strong, and it deserved our attention.
The chemistry is strong with this current iteration of the band. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that infused, the connection on the album?
Well, this chemistry, it kind of reminds us of the original trio chemistry in the way that we don't really have to talk about a lot. Things just kind of happen. Danny's been in the band forever now. Jorgen going on 9 years.
Yeah.
Chemistry is wonderful when you are lucky enough to stumble upon it, but you have to stay together long enough to kind of utilize that, and the longer we do, the better it works.
But that's a testament also to the fans. I mean, do you probably see a lot of the same fans every year when you're going out on tour? Or do we're having some we have some of the audience here, right?
Every night.
Yeah, right. They're following you around.
Some of them are there every night.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe I dreamed that. But,
what's that feeling like when you look out and you see those familiar faces?
It's like family,
Yeah.
and it's a good feeling.
Yeah. What about you, Warren? What do you think? What goes through your mind?
Well, I think it's great. We have a unique relationship with our audience, and of course, we're not the only band that does that. But when you meet someone and they say, "Tonight's my 200th Gov't Mule show," it kind of puts a different perspective on it, And incidentally, Central Park is going to be our 2000th.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that. That's great. 2000. That's
And we
insane.
still don't know these songs.
Yeah. Well, do you ever? Does that ever happen to you when you get on stage? Does it ever? Do you ever get nervous? Is there an adrenaline rush that comes through? Or you just go up there and it just comes naturally to you?
It's always a sense of excitement.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Warren?
Well, yeah, I think you kind of depend on that adrenaline surge. I think if you ever reach a point where you're not nervous, that's the time to retire.
Yeah. Do you see any retirement in your futures?
No.
No.
I don't know. How do you retire? You know, it's most musicians don't retire. They just keep doing it as long as they can.
Yeah, yeah. It's in your blood, right? Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, and musicians don't stop anyway, so
Right.
retirement is what? We decide to not play in front of an audience, just play at home instead.
Get a Vegas residency.
Kick back. That would cut back on
wish
the
you hadn't
travel.
said that.
A lot of people have come through Vegas, so maybe Gov't Mule one day. But you did have a somewhat retirement, though, with the Allman Brothers. You did play your final show, Warren, with them back in 2014 now. What did that mean to you to do that?
Well, that was 45 years and for the Allman Brothers, and I think that we made the right decision and stuck to it. You know, it was bittersweet. It was hard to say let's stop touring, but I think everybody felt like it was important for that band to go out on top on a high note, and also I think it's important. I can say this as a fan because I was an Allman Brothers fan from the very beginning. That music is different. It's not like a band that can go out and play their hit songs and go through the motions. The Allman Brothers was never about going through the motions. It was about leaving everything on the stage every night. And I think everybody realized that, and Gov't Mule was the same way, you know. So I think everybody realized that there is going to come a time when we're not going to be able to do it on the level we want to. And we had watched a lot of bands kind of turn into a shadow of their former selves, and nobody wanted that.
Right, right. And you ended on the high note, but it's similar to Gov't Mule. The fans were just so passionate and so loving of Allman Brothers Band. What do you think it is about that band that really stuck with fans for so many years and still does? I mean, I think there are new generations that are uncovering the music for the first time.
Well, it's timeless music. You know, and again, as a fan, I can say that. Bands that made music or make music with no pretension and no concept of trying to be famous or trying to be successful and no second guessing the marketplace have a much better shot at creating something honest and timeless. And no one can deny the Allman Brothers' timelessness.
Same thing with the Dead, though. You've been able to continue that legacy on with the Grateful Dead. What does that mean to you now, how many years later?
I think it's great that everybody still wants to keep the music alive, and mostly what I'm seeing is reinterpretations, taking the songs in different places, you know, not trying to go, oh, this is the way we played it in '73. It's like, how do we play it in 2017, you know, and I think it's really cool.
Are there any bands that you're listening to now that you're digging, or do you get inspiration from a band that you listened to growing up still to this day? What about you?
With me, it's pretty much what I grew up with.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to think of a new band right now that I'm really digging because I don't listen to the radio that much. I love the old stuff, you know.
Yeah. What about you, Warren? Anybody that like stands out to you, whether it's an inspiration from growing up or maybe someone you're digging right now?
Well, all the old stuff that we love still gets tons of rotation on our tour bus, but the Marcus King Band I really love.
Yep.
And I think it's things like Marcus and Maggie Corner and people that are doing fresh music that sounds old but sounds alive and vital. I think that's what's going to keep rock and roll going.
All right. Well, I think that's a great way to end before we go on to audience questions. So let's go to the first one.
How you doing, Matt, Warren? How are you? Quick question, probably a good segue from that last thing. I heard that Robbie Krieger is a big fan of Gov't Mule, and I was wondering what it was like playing with Robbie at the Halloween show a number of years back.
It's like being in the Doors. It really was. And Robbie's just a sweet, generous person and musician. And we did a couple Halloween shows with him, and we did the Doors repertoire. and it was just so enlightening and just so cool to do.
Well, we also did the Ray Manzarek tribute show in California with Robbie and John Dinsmore playing together for the first time in ages, and that was extremely special. You know, for me, it was really fun because I was concentrating on singing because the Doors only had one guitar player and Robbie had that covered. So there were times when we experimented with a cool two-guitar thing, but there were times also that I could just play a different role and just sing the songs. And
Be the Lizard King.
it was great. We had a wonderful time. Love Robbie. He's a sweetheart.
Great, thanks.
I'd like to ask a little bit about volume and dynamic range. When I first saw the trio in '96, I remember it as being one of the loudest experiences of my life. It was like you got on stage, you turned it up to 11, and you didn't turn it down. And over the years, I've seen you add some softer songs and some more dynamic range and some more textures, and I'm really interested to hear a little bit about the evolution of that from a band that was just like seriously on, loud, non-stop, a physical force pushing me towards the back of the room, to something where you can really experience the ups and downs, almost like you're on a roller coaster throughout the show.
Well, you can answer as
That was
well.
Woody.
Yeah, it was Woody. Woody's fault, absolutely. Well, there's two things that I can say to that. One was, when we first started, we were trying to bring back the concept of this power trio thing like Cream and Hendrix, and nobody was doing that. It was the experimental rock trio. And those bands were really loud, and we were trying to kind of bring back that concept. Also, Woody and I were currently at that time in the Allman Brothers, which is a really loud band. The difference is the Allman Brothers were playing to 15,000 people, and in the first days of Gov't Mule, we were playing these tiny little places. So it wasn't so much that we were loud, which we were loud for the places we were playing. It's kind of like tonight. Today. It's gonna be loud in here today, and it's not because we're super loud. It's because we're too loud for this room.
Love it. All right, another question here.
Hey, thank you for being here. Do you prefer songwriting in the studio or out on the road?
Well, it's really hard for me to write on the road. I make myself do it, but I think songwriting is something you kind of have to be in a headspace. There's got to be some sort of solace, and on the road there's always distractions, so it's hard to make that happen. Now, we know that we're on the road a lot, so we have to deal with it, but I tend to write more in November, December, January than any other part of the year because that's when I'm home the most.
Great, thank you. Well, guys, Matt and Warren, it's so great to have you here today. Thanks for coming by and sharing the story behind the new album. By the way, it's out June 9th. Get it. But before that, we're going to hear you play. So you ready to rock? You ready to get loud?
Let's do it.
All right, one more time.